Welcome, everybody. I'm Alex Newman with the New American. We're here at Camp Constitution, and I'm with Michael King. He is the Director of Community Alliances for the Massachusetts Family Institute. It's one of the great pro-family policy organizations that we have in all the different states. Thank you so much for being with us. And last night you were talking about some of the incredible victories that are happening in Massachusetts, of all places. It's like one of the most liberal states in the country, and yet there are big victories for conservatism, for Christianity, for religious liberty. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so back in 2020 when, we were getting all this COVID nonsense, lockdowns and all that stuff, and they were keeping, liquor stores open and marijuana shops open, and, they just wanted to shut down the church. So we sent out a letter saying, look, the church is essential, and we had 525 pastors from Massachusetts, if you can believe that, signed a very public letter saying that, again, the church is essential. We also had a pastor from Worcester sue the governor, who he left his doors open the entire time, and all criminal charges were dropped. And so between that letter and what he did, the church was reopened in phase 1 in May of 2020. And we continue to have this, really vibrant church coalition. I think it was mostly seen in that letter where over 500 pastors signed the letter, but we've also seen, recently in Worcester, we've been working with 16 parishes and 25 evangelical churches in the second largest city, not only in Massachusetts, but in all of New England, and saying that, the sex ed that you're teaching in the public schools there is explicit, it's pornographic, it's not age appropriate, it's not medically accurate, and it's not evidence-based, as they would say. And so working with these churches, many of the parishes would pass out these opt-out forms as people would leave Mass, so that parents would have the form to opt out their kids. And the evangelical churches would do much of the same thing. And so 2 years ago, 5 kids opted out of sex ed in Worcester. And then when we got involved last year, 3,800 students in the city of Worcester, which is historic and unprecedented, opted out of explicit sex ed.
That's amazing. And there's something else happening here, too, that I've been documenting happening across the country. There's a massive exodus taking place from the government schools into Christian schools, homeschooling, these micro schools, pods, and stuff like that. In fact, I think Massachusetts has one of the fastest increases in the country. Talk a little bit about that. Why? And you're working closely with the pastors all over the state. Why are families ditching the government schools?
Yeah, so a lot of it is because of the sex ed, and just, you go to the school, you say, look, it's not age appropriate, it's not medically accurate. The fact that you're literally teaching sexual activity and calling it abstinence is not right. And so that instead of the schools listening to the parents, they're just digging in and they're saying, look, they're even making it hard for parents to get information, making it hard for parents to opt out. So I think a lot of parents are just seeing that the school is really not working with them, and so they are opting out not only of sex ed, but as you said, opting out of school, out of the public school altogether. So we've seen this a lot throughout the state, but mostly we've seen it in Worcester again. So over the past 3 years in Worcester, 1,000 students have left the Worcester public schools. Wow. And that's just a trend we're seeing. And so as we get kids to opt out of sex ed, we're doing this parallel strategy to say, okay, churches, now it's your time to start a learning pod or a micro school or whatever you want to call it. Basically these glorified homeschool co-ops that, all these churches have empty space during the week. And so we're like, well, why don't you use your space and, have a group of kids, whether it's 5 kids, whether it's 20 kids. And so we're seeing probably 25 to 30 churches now that I'm working with personally that have either already started a learning pod or are starting one this fall. So to give you an example, the largest Hispanic church in the Boston area is starting a school this year, this fall, and then the largest Hispanic church in Worcester is starting a school this year as well. And so the city of Plymouth has an 800-member church that is starting a learning pod this fall as well. And those are just 3 really great examples of how the church is really stepping into this space, because we always talk about the harvest fields and, evangelizing and things like this. And I'm going out and I'm telling the pastors, what better harvest field than all of these students that are coming out of the public school? And what better way to reach a child's heart than through education?
Absolutely. And so, what advice do you have for Americans out there, especially Americans in really blue states, really liberal states, where action through the legislature seems hopeless? You guys are still getting all these victories, and Massachusetts is one of the bluest states.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for folks out there who want to try to see things like that in their own state?
Yeah. So what I tell people, a lot of the stereotype of Massachusetts is that it's left of left, right? And I would actually say that is true of our leadership, but I would say it's absolutely not true of the people. If you look at how many churches there are in Massachusetts, you ask the Secretary of State's office, they'll tell you there's 8,000 churches. And you were talking the other night, just in Worcester, there's 70 Hispanic churches on Main Street. And in the city of Lawrence, there's over 100 Hispanic churches just in that one city. So Massachusetts is very churched. And, we've been invited to speak at 200 churches in the past 5 or 6 years. And many of those 200 churches, we've spoken at some of those churches 5 different times in the past 5 or 6 years. So we've really garnered this trust, garnered this relationship with the church. And now we're starting to see these victories, not only in education. We were talking the other night about the victory coming up in Worcester regarding these pregnancy care centers and how, the city council is so overstepping its bounds regarding the Constitution and violating First Amendment rights of these pregnancy care centers. And we're seeing just people come out of the woodwork to come to the city council, to go online and to support, in this case, the pregnancy care centers. So I would just say people be encouraged, let Massachusetts be an example of how the local church is really waking up in getting involved on a local level to make a difference.
That's phenomenal. And where do people find the Massachusetts Family Institute? Are y'all on social media? What's the website?
Yeah, so you can go to mafamily.org. That's MA for Massachusetts family.org. And you can find us on Facebook as well.
Fantastic. Michael King, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, folks. Alex Newman here with The New American. We will be back with more. Until next time, God bless you all.